Hi, everyone, and welcome into Don't Tell Me How to Fan. My name is Josh Albrecht, and with me, as always, is my good friend, John Taylor. John, how we doing?
I'm doing okay, Josh. How are you doing?
I'm all right. I'm hanging in there. It's been a busy week. We had a little bit of unfortunate news. We had to put our puppy down earlier in the week. That was tough. It's always tough. Appreciate everyone that has reached out and said kind things, including yourself, John. I mean, it's a part of life. It's never easy. A ton of people go through it. Yeah, it just sucks. But appreciate all the kind words. One of the nice things has been the distraction of sports, which I'm not gonna lie, I was a little worried about when the Packers season was done. I was like, all right, like, are we gonna really have enough things to focus on as we kind of get into the dry season before baseball starts? And there's been plenty to talk about. The biggest thing since the last time we talked has been the Packers hiring their defensive coordinator in Mr. Jonathan Gannon. And I will be the first to say, wasn't like the guy I wanted. And I have no reason to have not wanted him. I know nothing about him beyond the fact that he was a defensive coordinator for the Eagles before he got a head coaching job with the Cardinals, and that head coaching job didn't go well. That doesn't mean he's not a good defensive coordinator. And actually, I think that we've seen a lot of DCs and OCs that have gone on to be head coaches and then go back to being a DC or an OC are usually very successful, right? We've seen that with Robert Saleh. Now he's back as a head coach. And there have been others as well. Dan Quinn for a while was when he was with Dallas, I believe. So I have hope and I have more thoughts as well that I'll get to in a minute on Gannon. But first, John, your initial reaction and thoughts on that hire.
My initial thoughts were kind of similar to, I think, what I've been hearing kind of all over from the old Packers sphere, blogs and radio is, I'm whelmed. I'm exactly whelmed. I think like when I first heard it, I went, okay. I think there's a lot to be said about Jonathan Gannon. Specifically, he did lead the Eagles defense when they made their huge Super Bowl run. When you look at when they were at the height of their powers, especially when you talk about on the defense, it was all thanks to Jonathan Gannon and that scheme. You could argue whether or not it's talented players or anything else, but at the end of the day, he was their defensive coordinator and they won a Super Bowl. So you got to tip your hat to him and them for doing that. I think like his reputation has been marred by his head coach tenure. He's a weird dude, between having the fire in your gut and taking that bus coach and like weirdly putting your hands on a player after a fumble. Like, head coaching is not for everybody. And I the more I look into it and the more I think about it, I think like, him stepping back and moving back into a defensive coordinator role in a solid organization, I think is going to do wonders for him. And I think it'll do wonders for the Packers subsequently. The biggest thing I take away from this hire is I still believe in my heart of hearts, Matt LaFleur wants barely anything to do with the defense. He brought in a guy who has called plays before. And when we were talking about other candidates, your Jim Leonards, your Durante Jones, your Christian Parker, all of these guys, they would all, Al Harris, these would all be first-time play callers. And I think that requires a level of hand-holding or what's the word I'm looking for? Being watched by Matt LaFleur, and I just don't think he has the time, energy, want, or effort to do that. And I think Jonathan Gannon allows him to be what many people are calling like the CEO of defense, because MLF is the CEO of offense and the head coach as well. So,
and I feel like for a lot of fans, we're fine with that. I feel like there's already too much on Matt LaFleur's plate with running the offense completely and being the game manager and everything else that he does. I don't want him putting one more thing on his plate in his brain. Absolutely trust the DC with that. I wish that Matt LaFleur would take some off of his plate. And one of the things I asked as we were going throughout the week was, okay, so we got a DC. I'm still not sure what Se2 does. I'm still not sure what the offensive coordinator on this team does.
Yeah.
Because it seems like everything with the offense is going through Matt LaFleur.
Yeah.
So I don't understand.
Yeah, it's a perfectly valid question. I mean, they don't have to, and why would they ever disclose their particular jobs on a day-to-day basis? I think the Stenovich complaints, the only time they're valid is I think when you look at how significantly worse the offensive line got once he left that position group. That is the biggest thing where I've heard a lot of people say, like, bring somebody else in, take stuff off Steno's plate to get him back on the offensive line. I just don't know how much that is going to affect and change really what is going on. I forget where I heard it or read it, but Stenovich is doing stuff. He's adding concepts. He's adding wrinkles. Like most of these rooms, their jobs are to come in and provide interesting looks, wrinkles, tendency busters, all of this stuff. And apparently a lot of the spinner motion stuff that we saw with Malik Willis 2 seasons ago was all Steno. Apparently, like that was his imprint. So, just because he's not calling plays doesn't mean he doesn't have his thumb on the scale in terms of concepts and what they think they can accomplish from a game to game, play to play down in the MLF Matt LaFleur system. But you're right. I do understand not really feeling like the coaching staff is prepared to help Matt take stuff off his plate. But to be honest, I don't know how much he cares. I think he's like truly like, I only really care about making sure the offense is great. I think he does that by and large. And I think like part of what Matt LaFleur needs to do heading into his 7th season with the Green Bay Packers is realize where he's deficient, where he can be better, and either make big choices to improve that or pass it off to somebody else. Give it to somebody else if you ain't got it like that. So we'll see. But I think like Jonathan, going back to Jonathan Gannon specifically, I really like the hire. As of right now, we lost Derek Ainsley to the Dolphins, and we brought in Bobby Babich, who also interviewed for the DC coordinator position. He was somebody that was a part of the Bills organization. And then obviously once they let McDermott go, he also was looking for other work. So they're bringing him in as a pass game coordinator. I think that's really interesting. My biggest thing about the Green Bay Packers right now, and I swear it makes sense into the conversation we're having, is we got to start bringing in guys who offer something different than the Sean McVay tree. And right now, I think like Halfley did that. But when you look at like Hackett and all these other guys who have been a part of the Matt LaFleur system as long as they have been, they need to find other ways to attack with new ideas. And I think Babich, Jonathan Gannon specifically, will do that. He famously said he'll run any sort of scheme. He's schemeless. I don't know exactly how true that is, but he is talking about basically showing a willingness to see what the talent of the team is.
I was going to say, is that a good thing? Is that a good thing when someone says they're schemeless? Like, I guess I viewed that as, it depends on if you're a glass half full or half empty type of person on how you view that. But I was mostly confused. I was like, I don't know that I'm looking at that as a positive.
Yeah.
That you're not confident one way or another with scheme.
Yeah. I think ultimately saying you're schemeless is hinting at this idea that you're not married to a specific system. And I think that's sometimes where people get in problems, where you go, I'm the defensive coordinator. I'm a Tampa 2 guy. I'm a zone Tampa 2 guy. And that says like, I'm going to make my players play this. And if we can't do that, then we're going to find new players. And I think sometimes that's good, sometimes that's bad. And it's not necessarily always playing to your player strengths. I think Gannon has shown a really fluid and what I would consider natural approach to just saying, this is who we have. This is what we're going to run. And you can highlight it as recently as the Arizona Cardinals last year. They got marred with injuries to the point, their defense was not as talented as any of the Eagles. So when you look at the step back, you can kind of, and also he just wasn't the coordinator. But the fact is they were playing 5 like safeties at one point because their secondary was bad. So it's just like, I'm not saying I want to see every single safety on our roster on the field, but I do want to see our best players on the field. And I want to see us find creative ways, creative looks, creative opportunities. And I think that's what Gannon offers. Aside from the fact that like, he is like a real big teacher. I don't know if you all talked about it on the radio this week, but they only had about 10 coverage breakdowns all season for the Cardinals. And you think about all the miscues, the blown coverages, the explosive that we're getting off by not covering the right people or not passing off the assignments. That is something that he takes very seriously and demands of his players. And I think like if you can get the secondary gap or fundamentally sound, I think that will allow for this defense to kind of return closer to that elite status we thought they were. There's definitely holes. There's things they need to fix, but getting them to just play fundamentally better, go figure, is going to probably yield a better product on the field. So
here's the one thing that I'm worried about with Gannon that I need. I mean, time will tell, obviously, but that I need to be fixed is I need the players to buy in with him. Right? It was wild to me because I felt like all of us as fans were ready to run through walls for Hafley. We heard him speak and we were like, let's go. But then we saw players, specifically examples with Gary and Nixon, of just giving up on plays and doing things that are inexcusable. That I was stunned when you have a guy like Hafley. The only thing I could think of is maybe because like Hafley wasn't on the sidelines. Like it just blew my mind that you got to get the players to buy in to what you're selling and want to go that extra effort to play with 110% the way that you coach them to. And I was surprised that they didn't, because it felt like they should have with Hafley. And when you see the clips that have been out there with Gannon and how he's kind of a weird dude, I worry, like, are these guys going to be like, what is this? What is up with this dude? Or are they going to buy in and be like, hell yeah, coach, let's go? I don't know, but that needs to be there. That motivation in the players needs to be there. And Micah Parsons has come out and said that he doesn't, it's on the players. And I'm like, yeah, but it's also on the coaches. It's also on the coaches to get the players there. So we'll see. We'll see if that's
I don't know. If you're comfortable taking a playoff, I don't know what coach is going to inspire you to actually do your job where you make millions of dollars to play a children's game. So I do agree with Mike on that front. Like, it's on the players to want it, and it's on the coaches to get them in a position to be able to get after it. And so we'll see. You know, I think like head coaching is weird. You wear a lot of different hats. You know what I mean? Let's like hopefully taking a big step back in terms of responsibility will allow him to get a little more comfortable. But the proof will be in the pudding, right? It's like if you can get these guys excited about the system, excited about playing quarter coverage, because that's kind of where they're going to run a lot of, and just kind of putting a lid on the field and kind of like roaming the field, looking for picks, all of that kind of stuff that you get in like a quarter system, then I think it'll be pretty easy to get people bought in. But they're going to have to adjust and fill a bunch of holes in terms of the interior defensive line to make that happen, bringing in a cornerback to allow that to happen. So there's definitely some holes on this roster that need to get filled either by the draft or free agency, which we are months away from having that full conversation. But, you know, for now, all they can do is just learn the playbook and get ready to try to go after a Super Bowl next year. So,
right. And there will be still be a little bit of a adjustment period, right? When you have new faces coming in, and more than just the defensive coordinator, as we're seeing more and more coaches also find their way out of Green Bay and mostly to Miami, which we can talk about coming up in the next segment, along with some familiar faces that also spent some time in Green Bay, now finding themselves with other teams across the league. And before the break, we were talking about the Packers, where things are now that they have Jonathan Gannon as the DC, looking at the rest of the coaching staff, the changes that are happening there, a lot of them not being choices of the Packers, but rather the choices of the coaches that were former Packers coaches, making their decisions to go elsewhere, specifically to Miami with Jeff Hafley. But there are some others as well, some further back ex-Packers coaches we'll talk about as well. But let's start with Miami. John, are you surprised at all by any or upset at all by any other moves that have happened with the coaching staff of coaches that have left the Packers Matt LaFleur regime and followed Jeff Hafley down to Miami?
Yeah, well, they took Sean Dugan, right, the middle linebackers or the linebackers coach. I'm not shedding a tear over Dugan, if I'm being honest.
Yeah,
I don't know. It hasn't been the most inspiring, especially going from Campanile, who is obviously potentially getting DC opportunities after he went down to Jacksonville, I think. I will say that was a position coach. I was not going to be upset. I was thinking that they maybe even needed to make a choice to move on from him as opposed to just letting him leave. So fortuitous, I will say it is that Hafley took him. When Babbage got reported, they said, well, passing game coordinator, that's Derek Ainsley's job, right? We were trying to figure out how that could work. It's happened in other places. And then later in the day, we found out that Derek Ainsley is also going down to the Dolphins, correct? There's been so many transactions being reported the last couple of days. It's hard to keep it all. That one I like less, only because I know for a fact the secondary and the safeties really liked him. It seemed like, say whatever you want about the cornerbacks. I think it's a skill issue. I think ultimately they were playing well. I think the safety room is incredible. In part due to Ainsley and his coaching. And so that's the one that hurts a little more. I will say, knowing that Babbage is already in the door and somebody that was already being highly considered as a DC candidate for the Packers made that not burn nearly as bad. So that's not, the worst news. And then what are the other, who else got poached?
To be honest with you, guys that I hadn't even thought about or known. And so that was kind of the thing too, is that a lot of people, I felt like that were really, really deep in the weeds of the Packers coaching staff were I think their strength and conditioning coach was one. And I was kind of yeah, okay. Yeah. I'm sure that these guys, they're very important to the team, right? They have roles for a reason, but they're just not names that I'm worrying about. If I know who you are as a strength and conditioning coach, it probably means you're not good at your job, because I'm going, who the heck is in charge of strength and conditioning for these guys? I got to look this up. Yeah. Otherwise, so hearing that more of these guys were going to Miami to be with Hafley, the only way that I was really judging that in any way, one shape or another, was I thought it was a little strange that people were choosing to go start with Hafley instead of staying with Matt LaFleur. And that was immediately squashed, that thought, by the fact that, okay, but if Gannon has his own people, you might be out of a job. So you're going to take that job if it's offered to you. And also, who knows how long this timetable under Matt LaFleur, that umbrella, is going to last, where if you can go start fresh with Hafley, it's probably a better idea to do that and have an opportunity to lengthen your career. If Matt LaFleur truly does have a window, which I want to say one more thing about Gannon as well, that there were a lot of people that were chiming in throughout the week about Gannon, saying that they thought the reason why Matt LaFleur made that hire was that he wasn't a threat to Matt LaFleur like Jim Leonard would be, or some of these other guys. And I think that's absolutely ridiculous, because not that I'm trying to tell anyone how to fan, but the idea that Matt LaFleur is worried about someone else taking his job right now is asinine to me. He has to be thinking, I have to put the best people around me and pray that they help me prove that this deal was worth it, and that I get to keep this job, not that they're going to take my job. He is not in a position to be worrying about that. They'll let him go regardless. So he's trying to save his job, not worried about losing it to someone.
We're on radio. If you're not watching on YouTube, I was giving you the biggest head nod that my chair started rocking. Matt LaFleur, the only thing that's coming for Matt LaFleur's job is his failure to succeed in the playoffs. That's the only thing. Matt LaFleur in the next 2 years needs to win a Super Bowl in this window where the contracts of Parsons and Love. I know we had kind of talked about windows last year, but it's just the way the contracts. They've been going on whether you were privy to them or not. These contracts are going to become albatrosses for this organization. They need to win a championship in the next 2 to 3 years, or this roster is going to be untenable quickly. That's what you're seeing with the Bills right now. And so it's the idea that he is going to hire a guy who could not come for his job is crazy for all the reasons you listed. And also because he needs to go win a Super Bowl, period. This team is talented enough to go win the Super Bowl.
It's so hard to win the Super Bowl.
Well, that's what I mean. That's what I'm saying.
So Super Bowl 2 years
no one's Ed Policy is not going to be going, hey, board, we got to fire Matt LaFleur and replace him with his DC because we like Jonathan Gannon more. What? It's going to have nothing to do with it. It has no bearings. Jim Leonard, they're not going to, first of all, Green Bay has to be, rightfully so, one of the most patient and loyal organizations in all of football in terms of like setting a plan and sticking to it. You know what I mean? And so it's like, well, you think they're going to go, Jim Leonard, he's never called defensive plays before, and in one season going to go, yeah, he's the guy we can fire Matt LaFleur and hire internally over. Like it's just not going to happen. It's not going to happen. And I know this is kind of pivoting off of what we originally wanted to discuss, but yeah, I've been hearing that too. And it's like, no way. He brought in Jonathan Gannon because there were reports that maybe he was going to go somewhere else. And Jim Leonard left the Packers on the altar one other time. So it's like, even if they wanted to talk to him, and that's a whole other conversation about the way these interview processes, how some teams can start hiring their guys a day after the season ends. And if you want guys who are actually talented enough to get to the Super Bowl, you basically just have to like make yourself like wildly liable to get burned. Like it's a bad system all the way around. But if you were excited about the interview with Jonathan Gannon, and then yeah, you have to bring him in. Period. So I think like they wouldn't have done that if they weren't excited about it. But I don't think he's coming for Matt LaFleur's seat, especially not after the head coaching job he did in Arizona. You know, it's like I think, and I could see like, well, Christian Parker, Jim Leonard, Durante Jones, Al Harris, all these guys, it's like they've never called defensive plays before. You're talking about running before they walk. So it's like this is not the organization that's going to do that. If you want to go do that, go be a Jets fan. And then just wallow in misery for 30 plus years. Like it's just not going to happen.
And then wait for the Packers to take them from the Jets after they've been there and been a coordinator. Right. Because they'll play it safe and they'll go that route. Beyond the what's happening in Miami and the players moving there, we also saw Super Bowl champion head coach and former Green Bay Packers head coach Mike McCarthy back in a head coaching role in Pittsburgh. I loved this because for two reasons. First, I think absolutely there's a chance that Rodgers comes back. It's not guaranteed, but I think that it could happen. And I love the idea of there being three different eras of Packers football all happening in one season that you can cheer for. You can cheer for the 2026 Packers. You can cheer for the 2024, 2025 Packers in Miami, or you can cheer for the 2010, 2011 Packers in Pittsburgh. It's kind of crazy how all three of them are going to be coaching, playing at the same time. That storyline really comes together if Rodgers does come back, but it's definitely fun. Obviously things didn't end great with McCarthy here, getting let go midseason, but I don't know. I still love the guy.
He's a hell of a coach too. I don't mean to jump in, but it's like
it was awesome to see his presser too, man.
Yeah. He's from Pittsburgh. He clearly loves that team. The message got stale in Green Bay after 8 years. Like, what are you going to do? You try, you know what I mean? How many postseason heartbreaks, how much Aaron Rodgers getting older, things just kind of feeling like a lot. You're watching a lot of players. You went through two generations of Packers in that time with Big Mike, between like the guys that kind of got on the tail end of Favre, your drivers, your Nelsons, and then you get this next crop. I mean, I don't fault Mike McCarthy at all. I don't fault Mike McCarthy in Dallas. Seeing what Jerry's been up to and the type of product they've been willing to trot out, like, under Big Mike, like Dak still had a couple MVP caliber seasons before he got hurt, like he does every season. So I like Mike McCarthy. I think his style of offense still plays in the league. I think he is still a heck of a coach. And he will say what you want. He is a culture setter as well. He's a tough Pittsburgh dude. And I think like in terms of like finding a success for Tomlin, I think that's about as good as you could get. We'll see if Aaron Rodgers sticks around. It was cool hearing him be like, hey, I'd love to have him, but this is what it is. I think that'd be really beautiful if he came back and played one more season with Big Mike. I think it helps the Steelers? Yeah,
it'd be hard not to cheer for him.
He's not going to play him. I wasn't not rooting for Aaron Rodgers, but when you put Aaron Rodgers and Big Mike on the same team, it's like I hope the Steelers do well. But him coming back doesn't help the fact they need to figure out what their quarterback in the next 3 or 4 years is going to be. So
correct.
I wouldn't cut off
a short-term solution.
I would not cut off their nose to spite their face, which is what bringing Aaron Rodgers back. But as a Packers fan, watching from, thousands of miles away, go for it, my man.
Yeah,
come
absolutely.
on back. Go for it.
Absolutely.
Yeah. So
no, but that was really cool, and to just see his emotion that he showed and being that type of guy, because that's what I loved about McCarthy too, is that you could see him be that type of just a normal guy with emotions as a human being, and then also kind of be a hard ass, and get mad and get red. How many times did we see him slam headsets and do those things when he was coaching the Packers? And those are all the things that we don't see out of Matt LaFleur. And I'm not saying that we need a coach that has that. It's just something I miss, because to your point, Matt LaFleur has kind of gotten stale. We're used to this Matt LaFleur-esque way of running a team that's so much different than what McCarthy was, that I think that it's just the winds of change. And so I think that kind of that tied in with the nostalgia is part of the reason why it's fun. It's fun to look at that and just the NFL landscape of knowing that you're going to have a Hafley-led Dolphins, a McCarthy-led Steelers, and then a Matt LaFleur-led Green Bay Packers. It's going to be a fun season next year, and I think it's going to be a fun offseason too. Just looking at those now 3 teams for Packers fans and trying to follow along, see what they do, who they bring in, and who's successful, who's the most successful. That'd be a great poll question someday. Of out of those 3 teams with those 3 coaches, let's not even look next year. Let's look at the year after. Who has the most success?
Yeah,
yeah. The middle or the new?
Yeah. I before we pop in a break here in the next minute, I do think it's interesting, just speaking on Hafley too, how many Dolphins fans were like, who is this guy? They were like a bottom of the defense. And then you get him into that press conference and just how hard everybody in Miami was like, oh, this
right.
Dude rules.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So
which we all knew. And we were sitting back like moms on Christmas morning, just like sipping our coffee, like, we knew.
Yep. Yeah. So I'm excited for him. I hope the Dolphins do well. I think I would love to see the Patriots not become another dynasty. Wink, wink, nudge, nudge.
Yep.
So I hope Hafley can come in. There's a lot of talented players on the Dolphins. I hope they take one more piece, Malik Willis via trade. He's a free agent. It doesn't matter. He can sign. Yeah. But you get my point. I think he would do great. I think you got to give him another starting shot opportunity. Truthfully, I think he's earned it. There's not 32 starting caliber quarterbacks in the league right now, and Malik was one of them, and he was sitting on our bench. He's shown that. So I'm rooting for the Dolphins. I'm rooting for the Dolphins. I hope the Steelers do well, and I'll hyperventilate and throw up again if the Packers win a Super Bowl. So that's my fandom for 2026.
Yeah, I'm way too early, but yeah, absolutely, I'm bored with you on that. That's the order that it needs to happen in. For now, we're also focusing on what's happening in Milwaukee with the Bucks. And John, now we got to talk about the Bucks and Giannis. As much as I would prefer not to, it is everywhere. You cannot avoid it at this point. So can you help us kind of lay out the timeline since the last time we talked on what's all transpired here with Giannis?
Yeah, Josh, I'd unfortunately be begrudging to explain that to you. I'm not happy about it, but here it is. Yeah, Tuesday morning, there was reports that came out, Monday or Tuesday, early in the week, reports came out that Giannis apparently was sniffing around, potentially changing his agent, the agent he's had since he's been in the league. He said there was reports that came out that he was very frustrated that they were not able to lock down a trade that would send him to the Knicks. Those reports quickly got refuted by Chris Haynes, which is very much a player first reporter. So I'm wondering if that got leaked by Giannis or something else. A bunch of reports came out later in the day saying that a lot of beat reporters and insiders basically just said the amount of conversations there are about people potentially jumping ship on their agents is so numerous that a lot of them were we just don't even report on them. Obviously, this one is more notable because it's Giannis during all of this turmoil with how terrible this Bucks season is going. Mm-hmm. But all of that is to say those reports still came out. I should also mention, because I don't even know if we did talk about it last week, right? The injury had already happened. Yeah. I mean, he's going to be out another 4 to 6 weeks. So that's the first big piece of this. So the tank is officially on in Milwaukee. And, you hope you can sell Giannis on this tank and then move forward. That was the plan on Tuesday and Wednesday until yesterday afternoon, early morning, whenever it broke. Shams reported yesterday that yesterday being Wednesday. Sorry to everyone. Radio timelines are weird. That officially Giannis has approached the team saying that it's best for both sides to start exploring potential trade packages. And there has been varying degrees of how true or not true that is being reported over the last several days of this news coming out. All I will say about that is this is the most smoke where this is the most fire that's been around the smoke maybe ever. And so
I still don't see anything new.
I love hearing you say that as a big member of Team Delusion. I love that. Absolutely.
So John, I have a lot of sports anxiety. I call it fan anxiety, right? And it literally with Giannis, it's gotten me to the point to where I just don't care what any of them say until the news is out. It doesn't even, people are like, well, Giannis could squash all this. No, he's tried. He's said things. And then they still ask him the next time, well, now you lost tonight. So now what? Now do you want to leave? To the point where he goes, you know what? I don't know. Day to day. I don't know. Mm-hmm. And people are like, see, he changes. Well, yeah, because he just kept asking the same damn question. The media has been so crazy in regards to Giannis and his time here. It's literally insane. And so I myself have just said, I'm not buying any of it until I see the report that the Bucks have traded Giannis. The Bucks have traded Giannis, or Giannis is being moved to this team, or Giannis is not signing the Supermax deal, which will then lead to a trade, something of the sort coming out. All of it has been since Giannis is unhappy. Giannis is saying he wants this. Now today, being Thursday, there are reports saying that the Bucks are now listening to, that's the new news, right? In that Shams story was, the difference now is that the Bucks are listening to offers for Giannis Antetokounmpo. That's the dumbest thing I've ever heard. If the Bucks weren't listening for the last 8 years on trade offers, not saying that they're taking them, but if they're not listening, what are you doing? That's the dumbest thing. They absolutely, as an organization, as a front office, are getting those calls and emails and going, okay, and then doing nothing with it. They're using that to put a value on their superstar, to see where he's at, to use as leverage, maybe even against Giannis, of what Giannis wants. And when Giannis is telling them to go in and get someone, and they're going, well, no one's really wanting you right now, Giannis. I don't know. Like, all of that exists. And so the idea of all of a sudden the Bucks turned their cell phone back on and started listening to the phone calls is insane. And people are just buying into this more and more. And could it be true? Absolutely. Could it not be true? Yeah, because that's how it's been for years. So yeah. I'm not buying into it until I actually see it. And then when I do, I'll go, okay.
Yeah. Now I'll never tell anyone how to fan, the name of our show. But I will say this, fool me once, shame on you, fool me twice, shame on me. So I understand, like, as a fan being like, we've been hearing this for the last 10 years that Giannis wants out. He's going to force a trade. Yeah. He doesn't want to be here. Why would he want to be in Milwaukee? My only devil's advocate to this point is Giannis can pretty easily not request a trade and let the Bucks know he has zero intention of signing a contract extension, and that is basically asking for a trade, right? That is the only thing I can see. It's like, if they think there is no path forward to lock him up for another max extension or another contract in general, then they have to start fielding phone calls. Because what you can't do is have a generational player walk out the door and not get anything back for him.
Correct.
So
but he wouldn't be making that decision right now. That announcement of him, like, knowing Giannis and what he's done so far, he's not focusing on the Supermax. He's looking at trying to win a championship, what their plan is with the team. They're trying to sell him on, yeah, we're going to tank a year. We're going to try to rebuild this so that we can get the pieces to build around you. That's what the Bucks are trying to say. If Giannis isn't buying into that, and he also wants to have the integrity of saying, I'm not requesting a trade, then you're 100% right, John. The way that this ends is with Giannis getting to the point of saying, I'm not signing the Supermax. And then,
which means they have to trade him. So
that doesn't mean that he's requesting a trade.
Sure.
I've had a lot of people too, including Brandon Sneid, who's on 9 to Noon, that follows our show Inside Wisconsin Sports with Trevor and Josh, where he goes, yes, it is. That's him requesting a trade. Absolutely not. He never said that he wouldn't sign the Supermax. He said, I won't request a trade. He is sticking by his words. The words that people say are important. People aren't listening to those words because they keep listening to what these national media pundits are saying instead, which has been, hey, we need a new story to get clicks. It's ridiculous. It's absolutely ridiculous. And obviously it gets me fired up.
Yeah, you seem fired up. It is, I hate to say it, a little bit of semantics. Him saying, I do not believe in your vision. You will not get enough in here for us to be able to compete again. I will not sign another contract. Leaves the Bucks with what option, Josh?
Right. Obviously they need to trade him. My point is that it doesn't need to be like, I think that everyone associates Giannis, if he requests a trade, of saying, I give up on Milwaukee.
Oh, sure. Yeah. If you're talking about like perception.
Says, well, that's what it's been for him the whole time. I think the reason why he says, I will never request a trade, it's the perception. He doesn't want to be the bad guy. He wants to prove his loyalty to what he signed. He signed that contract. He said, I'm running it back with the Bucks. Let's do this. And everyone is waiting for him to be like LeBron or take your pick of any of these other superstars, crying, whining, complaining, and then getting moved. And he isn't being that person. He could say, Milwaukee, I think that you guys have a great team. I just want to see before my career's done what it'd be like to play somewhere else. I love you. I appreciate you. I'm going to go somewhere else. He could do that. And it's completely justified. The Bucks owe him nothing in that regard. So then it's like a mutual option of figuring out what makes the most sense for the team and for him. But he doesn't need that reason. That to me is a way different situation than if he comes out because the Bucks are losing and because Miles Turner didn't turn out to be what they needed him to be, and the team around Giannis just isn't working, and goes, I'm not happy here. Trade me. That's not what he's saying. If he goes, I'm not signing the Supermax. To me, those are different things.
Right. Yeah. I mean, ultimately, I think like if you can't convince Giannis that tanking this year, sitting the rest of the year, trading off as many pieces as you can for draft picks and trying to like just pivot, if that's something he decides he can't do this late in his career, then it is what it is. I think looking at the possible trade scenarios, which I'm not about to dive into on this episode, I will say not a lot of in-season stuff that would be very exciting. There's a lot of protected picks at play. You'd probably want a lot more clarity on where these picks are going to fall, what you'll actually have assets to. For the first time in my life as a Bucks fan and a fan of Giannis, I'm saying like, I think he's gone, but it's probably this summer. I think after the season, he probably goes. I think and it's nothing to do with Giannis, but if the Bucks truly have picked up the phone and started fielding offers again, it's because I think they know that they're officially cash poor in terms of keeping Giannis interested in Milwaukee. They have done everything, truly everything they can to compete with him. But at some point, the well dries up. And I can't think, when we're trotting out Kyle Kuzma, Cole Anthony, and Pete Nance as your starting lineup in a basketball game, I think the well is pretty well dry at this point. So I'm not looking forward to it. This is not me celebrating. I see a lot of fans are like, just pull the plug. Let's get over with it. It's like the Bucks were bad for 15, maybe 20 years. Like I am not excited about getting back into that. I think people forget that how rough this organization was pre-Giannis.
How about the fact that it was almost not here?
I know.
So bad. They were saying Seattle wants a basketball team again. Milwaukee's the perfect team to move out.
Yeah.
That narrative, I promise you, once Giannis is gone, that story will hit ESPN. First Take, Stephen A. Smith, those type of things. They will say the city of Milwaukee has given up on their team. There are fans in Seattle that are begging for a team, and just because they don't have Giannis, now no one wants to wait in Milwaukee. They should just sell the team, and they should move them to Seattle. That will be the next thing. I promise you it'll happen. And the only reason why it hasn't is because of Giannis. Get ready for that. Get ready for that narrative next.
Yeah. They're looking to expand. So, I will say like operationally, the Bucks have done a lot better of a job of modernizing the franchise. And so, hopefully they don't push that narrative too hard, but Yeah, we're about to rebuild. It's about to be some sort of rebuilding. With or without Giannis, this team is going to have to look very different. And seeing how they've been playing for the first time, you could call me a Creed song because my arms are wide open.
Oh, love it. I absolutely love it.
Yeah.
Great poll. Well, I'll tell you this. By the next time that we are talking here on Don't Tell Me How to Fan, we will know if Giannis is gone or if he is going to be here at least until the summer, as the trade deadline is February 5th, which will be obviously before next Saturday, where you will hear us on Don't Tell Me How to Fan on the Wisconsin Sports Radio Network. Obviously, I'm hoping that Giannis is at least here until the end of the summer. I agree with you, John. I think there's a plethora of reasons why it doesn't make sense to rush it and move him now. And it's just going to be really, really tough as Bucks fans to watch. Your social media feeds are going to be crazy with the with the people saying, per source, these are the trade rumors, offers. Stick with it, Bucks fans. Stay there. We'll get through it. We'll get through it together. All right. Again, thank you so much for joining us on this episode of Don't Tell Me How to Fan. Reminder, if you want to see our beautiful faces, you can, of course, do that as well by going to Not Done Yet Media on YouTube. Make sure to click like, subscribe, the bell, all that fun stuff to find out when we come out with the next episode here, as you also listen to us on the Wisconsin Sports Radio Network. Thanks so much for tuning in. We will see you next time because we are not done yet.